mandates in this case, since the sentence is 5 years or less. It's because of the shortness of the term, even the years, 2.5 years, on that type of sentence, given parole eligibility and or good time parole eligibility, he will only be serving a handful of months, and he will be released from jail from that incarcerated period of time. Then the court also sentenced him to all the other conditions that you heard. Obviously, it's within the court's discretion to sentence him to that, and we respect the court's decision. We are troubled by the one condition that this person who is convicted of hazing, who has not accepted an ounce of responsibility, in fact has deflected every part of responsibility, that he be the messenger and the poster child to speak to others about hazing. What's he going to say? I didn't do it. I'm wrongfully convicted. My sentence is too long. I'm appealing my sentence. He's going to talk about deletion of items from the phone. What is he going to say? I believe that he's the wrong messenger for this, particularly anywhere in Baton Rouge, anywhere in Louisiana. What is he going to say? What is the agenda going to be? That's really troubling to us, particularly if you listen to the trial. And then you listen to him today talk about rivers and cars and stalagmites and spiders. Is that what we're going to tell seniors in high school? What are we going to say? I'm troubled by that. I do understand the reason by the judge to have someone that's been there to give that type of statement, but surely I can see that more one that is remorseful, has admitted guilt. He has not admitted any guilt. In fact, he's indicated today that this whole thing is about somebody else tearing up a bid card, which started the prosecution down the road of looking at him and picking on him, when actually the facts, the evidence, and the testimony in court led to him. That's the only reason why he's here, and that the others were not charged similarly. The grand jurors presented everything on everyone that was arrested. They decided what the charge would be. We agreed that based on the evidence that we had and they had, that was the proper charges, that this person was the one only to be charged with negligent homicide, and the others were not. The others that were charged testified, and you heard their testimony, and they received the maximum sentence. So we presented everything that we could present. These cases are extremely difficult. Cooperation was extremely difficult. Cooperation continues to be difficult in all the following cases that we've dealt with, that we received in our office, which is 6 or 7. We have others that are coming in. Just total lack of cooperation from those that are involved because of the nature of hazing and the history of hazing. So I'm going to get you a better answer on the actual amounts of months for a parole date, which is different than a good time parole date. Parole date is 25% of your sentence where you're eligible for parole, but you can have some days take it off the end for participation in classes. Good time parole is something that you can't take away from anyone. That's 35% on 2.5 years. However, you can earn up to 360 days of good time credit there. So hopefully we'll have a better answer to you later in the day.
So did he go straight to jail, though? Does he have to?
He was remanded today, however, only until he posts the bond, which I understand his father's posted another post-conviction bond today. And the next court date will be returned for motions on the obstruction charge.
And that's an appeal bond, basically?
That's an appeal bond, correct.
How much is the amount?
$5,000?
He hasn't said an amount.
Okay, there's no amount set yet, but typically all the bonds that have been set, he has made them within an hour or so.
Can you explain the reasoning behind the suspended sentence?
The court has the ability to suspend the sentence. So what he did was he sentenced him to a period of incarceration and said, not only do I want you to go to jail and serve time, but I want you on supervised probation so that I can see that you are carrying out the court's wishes. That is all the different things, 1,000 hours of community service work, talking to high schools, and it keeps him under the court's watch for that period of time. It's totally allowed by the law.
So he will get out of jail as presumably when he bonds out, then when might he return?
Well, next return will be to court for obstruction charges and whenever that trial is set. He will not have to face any jail time until his appeals run. Typically, appeals run around a year to a year and a half. So you're talking about a long time before you have that decision one way or the other. We feel very confident about the evidence and the appeal situation. So we're talking a long time.
Hillar, the June 23rd date, is that for the obstruction, or was that just for?
That was for just on this date. So there, if you recall, this judge accused himself from the obstruction. So it's a different judge. I don't have the date. Do you recall?
The June date is a probation review.
But the obstruction charge.
The obstruction date is February 11th for motions.
Okay.
And y'all are staying with that charge?
Yes.
From the Gruvers, do y'all, you started this whole thing out by saying he's never said sorry. Do you feel like you got that sorry? And if not, what does that mean for you guys going forward?
Absolutely not. In his statement, there's still no remorse. He does not take any accountability for killing our son. I think it was clearly obvious in what he said today.
Who is the right messenger if he's not the one? Is it you two? Who needs to be out in front of high schoolers preaching this message?
Look, we're definitely doing it. Rand's been to over 100 universities, and we're talking to sororities, fraternities. That hazing's not just with sororities and fraternities. It happens in all organizations, sports, bands, and whoever can take up the banner. Whoever feels strongly that they can end it. We just need more education with hazing. We got to talk about it. People need to understand what it is. And the hazers need to understand that they believe they're in control, but they're not in control. A situation like happened to our son is proof that the hazers are not in control of what they're doing.
And the messenger is not Matthew Naquin. If he can't take accountability for what he did to our son, there is no way he's going to go out to a high school and tell a bunch of high school seniors that he believes hazing's wrong. Again, I think that's clearly obvious, and that's very disappointing to think that he would even be talking to students about something he won't even take accountability for.
What was your thought process when he compared the loss of his brother to the loss of your son?
I feel bad for their family, for their loss. It's terrible to lose a child, but it's two completely different things. He died, from an illness. Max was murdered by Matthew Naquin, by the actions of another human being. It's just two totally different things. You can't compare them.
The sentencing obviously doesn't give you closure, but how do you feel saying the sentencing and all the things that he has to do following it?
There's no winners.
There's no winning. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's lost in this, and
We have a life sentence, a life without our son.
How have you two changed throughout the trial in the last 2 years? And can you describe your thought processes beginning and then now at the end?
It is certainly a relief that it's over, that we have an end at least to this point, that there was a sentencing, he was convicted, he will serve jail time. But again, there's no winners.
So I have a little bit of update. It appears as if his good time eligibility would allow him to be out after 10 months and 15 days. It's for good time eligibility. However, he still has classes or courses that he can take, or even for him, as he's a bright young man, to teach, which could significantly cut that 10 months down. And then for regular parole eligibility before the parole board is 7 months and 15 days. And again, he has the ability to work off probably around 90 days, 3 months from that. So you're talking about just a handful of months under either scenario, one maybe more than the other. Parole eligibility must be honored by the parole board. Good time, there's no one has any say other than he just makes it as a good time, which everyone is entitled to, and he gets credit obviously for any of the time that he served. The one other thing I wanted to mention is that I do want to say that LSU and the university has stepped up. We've met with them several times with different organizations within the school, and they are doing a lot of outreach. We're getting to do a lot of outreach, a lot of training, especially when the Gruvers came in town to talk to the incoming freshmen that we attended. And so this is at the forefront of them now, and I'm glad to see that. And we're going to continue to work with them and the Gruver Foundation to hopefully continue getting this message out.
And y'all knew that you would never get the full 5 years. He would be out, or he would only have to serve lesser.
Oh, sure. I mean, we knew what the law was, and with the justice reform efforts, those numbers went down some to 35 now and 25%. So, yeah, sure, that's he's not. It's nothing special in this case. It's what happens with crimes that are considered crimes that are not violent.
Is this post-sentencing bond unique?
No, it's by law, and it's everything was done just like anyone else would have the same situation.
So just for my clarification, correct me if I'm wrong, he would only have to serve maybe like 6-7 months?
Yeah, and it's hard for me to give you a firm time because I don't know what classes he's going to be eligible for to take or teach, and a lot of depending on where he actually is housed. But we're talking about a year and a half away from now, after appeals are satisfied, before we can get there to even begin that process. So we're a long ways away.
Brother Gruver, what's next? Now that this is kind of coming to an end, what's next for you?
We'll continue to heal. It's a big process for the four of us to get through every day without Max. And we'll continue to do what we're doing with the foundation and, traveling across the country and speaking to colleges and universities about the very tragic consequences of hazing. We firmly believe that this hazing culture has to change. The deaths need to stop. It needs to end.
From a lot of people from the outside looking in are looking at you guys like this is something unbearable. We don't understand how they're pushing through. So how is it you guys are pushing through and still kind of holding strong?
We get the strength from our son Max. He is the puppet master. We're at the end of his strings. He shows us the path. He leads us down it. He gives us the strength to do this.
Anything you want to say? I know you guys are already talking to college students and fraternities and sororities, but is there anything you want to say, any messages you want to send?
You think you have hazing under control. You don't have it under control. You cannot account for Matthew Naquin. You cannot account for that X factor that's going to take that power and abuse it, and they're going to kill someone. They're going to ruin your organization. If you're hazing in your organization, it will destroy your organization.
Think anybody wants to add?
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I know. That's why I kept up so.